Another day, another game older than I am. It's Kung Fu. You knew it was coming. Let me make sure we got audio again. My no, okay, we do. It's hard to tell with these older games that don't exactly have anything going for them in the menu music front. I got some stuff seriously popping in the background there. I know that it's probably very, very distracting, but it's the best I can do for now. I can't just get a green screen and drape it because the cats will have a field day with it. So for now, this is the best I can do, but one day we'll have something better. Yeah, Kung Fu. I actually haven't played this game. I think I said that last time. Interestingly enough, we can see the IREM copyright down there, meaning this is not an entirely original Nintendo creation here. We'll see how it goes. I hear a lot of people say a lot of really good things about this game. Let me turn it up a little bit. There we go. Frequently hear people say that it's an enjoyable, fun little romp. So far, pretty simple. You got your kicks, you got your punches. You can punch them right in the balls if you so please. Okay, we didn't quite block that. I'm assuming up. Oh yeah, it's one of those real old games where up is jump. Because I mean, you're already using the other two buttons for punch and kick, so I don't. I'm now thinking that maybe I should have been traveling to the right this whole time, but I admittedly don't know. Oh, he threw it above, not below. Okay. Great start. But maybe it is coaxing you into going to the left. I don't know. Do you just have to survive the entire time? I don't know. This is a whole new experience to me. And as such, it might take me a little bit to fully determine what's going on. Oh, no, it switched it up. Can you believe that? It's responsive, though. Like, you hit punch or kick, you're pretty much immediately punching or kicking. There's no wind up, nothing that makes it needlessly difficult. Look at that, we actually figured that out that time. Oh, this guy, though. I don't know what to do about him. Ah, he's laughing! That must have been, like, the end of the floor boss or something like that, I would imagine. I'll have to figure out how to actually, deal with him. We can start by not getting grappled by the little goons. Not a ton in terms of presentation here, as you may expect from a game of its vintage. This is actually an arcade port of a pre-existing game. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was renamed to just Kung Fu for the purposes of the NES. Hey, we got him. That's nice. It appears he was... Okay, now, you can kind of call him a floor boss, I suppose. I have a burn on my hand. I don't know where that came from, but I think grabbing the controller a little bit of a pain. But yeah, this was an arcade game before it was an NES game. Obviously, would have had to have been a pretty successful one to warrant the port. Oh, no! Look at this. This is nonsense. Alright, dragons and snakes become the norm. One player game over. Didn't last very long. I could give you the same song and dance about how I say, oh yeah, most of the content is about mastery and getting better, but yeah, you all know that's the case at this point here. I was, playing some Dynasty Warriors 2 the other night. It has nothing to do with Kung Fu. I know I'm already getting off the topic of Kung Fu, but, boy, I really like old Warriors games. Well, not just old ones, I like pretty much all of them. They get a reputation for being a little, too much mash A, mash B, whatever console you're playing it on. That wasn't good. But that's kind of what there is to like about them, too, at the same time. Like, yeah, they're basic, they're extremely simple, but Dynasty Warriors to me is a stress relief series. Some people might set it on hard mode and try to get as much of a challenge as they can out of it. I am not ashamed to admit that most of the time when I play a game, I play it on normal difficulty because I always see that as kind of the intended difficulty. Dynasty Warriors games, honestly, I just go straight to easy and just veg out. I don't put any effort into it, and that's what winds up kind of being the most entertaining scenario for me there. Just a game where you can mash square until the end of time, and watch that KO count go up. It's a therapeutic series. That goes for any other Muso game as well, any other Warriors game, One Piece Pirate Warriors. There was a Fist of the North Star Muso game, interestingly enough. I feel the same about... I haven't played it, but Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors. Ooh, what was that? That destroyed me. Very much games in the same vein. Pretty much anything that says Warriors on the tin. Ouch. Okay, we can jump up in the air and get that. Stood up too quick. That's the game over. Alright, it's one of those games where getting past level 2 is not going to necessarily be a guarantee in life. But it is a fun game, actually. It looks extremely simple, and it is extremely simple. I mean, you're just walking and punching, basically. Which, you know, kind of fits that Dynasty Warriors vibe. Maybe that's why I brought up Dynasty Warriors. Maybe I subconsciously thought, hey, this reminds me of Dynasty Warriors. You just destroy hordes of enemies with minimal effort. Although, you do occasionally have to think like that right there. I gotta get better at determining when he's gonna throw it overhand and throw it underhand. It's the kind of thing where, if I were to be watching somebody else playing the game, I'd probably be sitting here, being an armchair expert, saying, oh, I should have ducked, that was obvious. But, you know, when you actually play it, it turns out to be slightly less obvious. This could be a really fun game to score chase in, too, actually. I'm not much of a score chaser in general, but I can see the appeal. Gosh, this entire half of my body is just phasing out, but, yeah, you know. We don't need that part of my body. That's secondary. Yeah, there you go. Don't stand up too soon. Not into the snakes. Ah, you're supposed to kick them. Alright, I tried kicking that one, but you gotta be quicker. They are deceptively fast. But yeah, games that just require, you know, like... What? Okay, maybe you do have to just jump over them. I'm thinking that that's maybe more what we're looking at here. But yeah, low effort games can be very fun. Now, so can high effort games. Sometimes Dark Souls is going to be the more enticing experience. Sometimes it's going to be Warriors Orochi 3. Sometimes you just game over in Kung Fu. At least we're getting the first floor rather consistently. You know, it's not like we're on a harsh time limit here. We got an hour to get as far as we can. Immediately out of the gates, I know that I haven't played the whole hour, so who knows how I'm going to feel at the end of it, but I'm getting really good feelings from it. Definitely a game I would not mind picking up an authentic copy of. I think this is also on the online Switch library. I might be mistaken, but I think pretty much most of the black box games are. I know Golf isn't. They opted for NES Open Tournament Golf instead, which admittedly is the better game and the better option. Oh no, look at this. Oh. Okay, we got him with a sliver of health remaining. So we're pretty much going to die immediately. But we're keeping that streak of beating floor 1. And that's what's really important in this world. Okay. Oh, it looks like you do actually get a health refill at the end too. Oh, come on. It's hard. It's hard for now. Hopefully there will be a point where it becomes easy. Yeah, can confirm. You can't do anything about those snakes. You have to punch those, though, or else you're gonna get nuked. What? It's little minis! Okay, well, this is the farthest that we've gotten in this stage so far. We weren't actually fighting any human enemies before. Oh, yeah! Oh, no! Look at that! I killed each other at the exact moment. Oh. I don't like the timing of the timing of the snakes. Like, you can't just immediately jump, but if you wait like a half a second too long, they're gonna run right into you. And gosh, everything in the first half of that stage just does an immense amount of damage. Like, you hit one of those pots, that's a good quarter chunk of your health gone. I don't know if it's really worth, like, punching ever. It seems like the kick has slightly longer range and is just as fast. Yeah, same recovery time, too, so I don't know if the punch is even worth considering. Hey, we got it that time. Don't let them get you from behind. You're a true kung fu master. Oh, no. You just stand here in place and beat them up all day if you didn't have a time limit. Oh, look at this guy. He's really going for it. But now that I know you get a health refill on the next level, I'm not sweating it. Yeah, look at that animation. Top score 30,000. It's not a lot. So we've done that every time. Just, you know, take it easy. No, I meant to jump up and smack it. Gotta get those colors down in my head. Gotta remember what I'm dealing with. That one hits me every single time, and that's really not gonna help. Excuse me. So everything just went as wrong as it could there. Let's see. I don't want to talk about it, you know? Hey, at least we jumped over that one. For what little that's worth. I felt focused, but I wasn't focused enough. I lost way too much health in the early stages there. Dang kung fu, who would have thought it would be so hard? Probably try a little bit of game B as well, because I'm not sure what to expect from game B, but well, no rush though, right? We got plenty of time. He's just cruising. 100 points a pop. Hilarious. Oh, but if you do kind of a flying kick move, they're worth more. If they attack you, then you lose health. Oh, yeah, look at that. You can really stack the points doing it that way. Let go of me, please. Okay. You apparently do have to mash the buttons to get them off of you. That's what I just learned and broke our streak. Here I was feeling like a hotshot thinking, yeah, we can make it through floor 1 no problem. And we just completely boof it. Like, it's probably not worth going for the points, right? You probably just want to try to survive. Right in the solar plexus. Look at that. That'll knock the wind out of you. I don't know if any of you have tried it. This has nothing to do with anything. It's not even a game you can, like, physically own. But I was playing some AI Dungeon earlier to pass the time. That is a amazing little piece of tech there. It is a completely browser-based text adventure. And unlike most text adventures where you're limited to a certain amount of commands that you can put in, AI Dungeon takes any command that you put in and then using everybody else's experiences with it, it machine learns from it and creates stories based on what you do. If you want to, like, replace an orc's eyes with coins for some reason, you could probably just toss that right in, and it would generate some kind of outcome from that. I had a lot of fun with it earlier. The possibilities are literally endless. If it generates something that doesn't make sense or you don't like, you can even just make it like regenerate text based on what you said until you get an outcome that you dig. So AI Dungeon, look it up. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, still takes a lot of your imagination, of course, because it is a text adventure. Come on, man. Come on. But don't let that stop you. Don't let that make you think that it's not worth checking out. I didn't realize we were so low already, but it's alright. I'm probably looking like a real chump at this game, but, you know, cut me some slack. I've been playing it for a whole 16 minutes. There are so many games that I played when I was younger, and then I always had the thought, maybe when I'm older, this game will be easier, and I'll be able to, you know, maybe beat it. So that was a lie. That thought wasn't a lie. I definitely had those thoughts as a kid, but the notion that being an adult would make them somehow easier was definitely a little bit of an embellishment. They didn't necessarily get harder, but you know, it's not a guarantee that, hey, just because I'm in my 20s now, I've been in my 20s, I'm in the back half of my 20s, now suddenly I can beat any video game that I stumble across. I can, given enough time. And I think that's really all that I've gained is patience more than anything else. Like, I beat Zelda 2 on the original hardware. Yes, I used a guide. Quite frankly, it would be an absolute mad lad move to not use a guide with a game like that. But even with a guide, it is no picnic. And I never would have been able to manage that when I was younger. Not because I'm just better at video games, but more than anything, you know, just because I'm more patient. Patience has everything to do with it. This is... Oh, no! The emulator stuttered a little bit. We took some very unnecessary damage. But yeah, patience is everything. If you've got the patience to beat a game... Boomerang guy murked me that time. I just wasn't paying attention. Yeah. Given enough time, anybody can beat any game. My non-video game playing wife could eventually beat Bloodborne if she were given an infinite amount of time. It would be a hell of a ride, but it is theoretically possible. My grandma could beat Doom Eternal. I'm not saying that to imply that Doom Eternal is, you know, like one of the hardest games of all time, but I did play the whole game, and it does get pretty damn hard, even on the, well, I guess there isn't really like a middle-of-the-road normal difficulty. There are 4 difficulty levels, I think, but it's a hard game. It does not mess around, especially in the later stages when the Archviles show up. Archviles were the worst thing ever in Doom 2. They're not as bad in Doom Eternal, admittedly, but they can still mess you up. I'm trying to think of what the hardest FPS I can think of is. It's kind of hard because, you know, like, there are so many FPSs that, you know, are tricky, but not necessarily, like, end-of-the-world difficult. Oh, come on. The Serious Sam games get there. Most definitely. If you've never played a Serious Sam game, it's just hordes of enemies in wide open arenas, and that's it. They're really fun, really, really good games. I was always a little bit upset that Serious Sam 3 never had a physical copy for the PS3 or Xbox 360, but I prefer first-person shooter games on a PC anyway, generally speaking. I just like, you know, having a case on my shelf. It's vain, it means nothing, but it's what I like. I like to collect. I don't have a vast collection right now, because I semi-recently got into that collecting bug. And a lot of that has to do with I finally have money in my life. You know, had I had money when I was like a teenager, oh, I'd have a large collection already, but I didn't have any income at all when I was a teenager. I tried to get a job at a grocery store, wouldn't hire me because my hair was too long. I said, well, that's not worth it. Was it the wise choice? I hate the dragons and the snakes. They're not my favorite. Was not cutting my hair just because I wanted it and forsaking a job the right choice? Wow, really? That like double tapped me there. That was brutal. Probably not the right choice, no, but it didn't wind up really hurting me in the long term either. I eventually got a job at McDonald's when I moved out of the house, and now here I am. In a soulless, albeit well-paying office job. And you know, yeah, you gotta take it where it comes, you know? It may be soulless, but it does fuel my hobbies. Not every job I've had in the past I can say that about. Sometimes it's a job where like, alright, you can eat, you can pay rent. Now here's $10, go get yourself something nice. That's all you got left over. Which, even that is better than some people wind up with. Some people don't even get to have $10 at the end. Look at that, we just flawlessly executed that stage. The spike from this stairway to the midway point of floor 2 is immense. Like, these jars and pots are not to be trifled with. I can say that with confidence. However, I do think that they're generally in the same pattern each time. Ah, shoot, wasn't expecting that. Meaning that you should be able to avoid it. Okay, jars are done. We only got hit once. I prefer to get hit not once. Prefer to get hit never. We're gonna take care of anyone who's behind us because they can make the boomerang guy a bigger deal than he has to be. Oh, look at that. We made it past boomerang guy. That means stage 3. Okay. I knew we'd get past there. It would just take a little bit of dialing in, a little bit of paying attention. That's gonna be a new high score for sure. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that number go up. Save Sylvia from Mr. X. Oh, that's the plot. Whoops. Yep, like all these old games, pausing doesn't skip it. It just pauses. What is with the minis? Mini is the preferred term for like a little person in the wrestling industry, so it is the term I will use. Because everything I know about life comes from professional wrestling. Okay. What? It's swarming. It's swarming. No doubt about that. This is not an ice climbers kind of situation where we can just start right back at this level either. If we game over here, which I'm pretty confident we will, that's the end of it. No more tries. You gotta start back with stage 1. Which, you know, it's like I said, that's how you squeeze more length out of a game of this era. Stick it to those video rental places. Well, even if we make it to the boss, I don't have enough health to believe that I'll be able to beat him. Let's get a knife stuck in our face anyway. We do still have one more life though, so. Oh, look at that! We hit 50,000 points and got yet another life, so that's just one more opportunity that we have to try to make something happen here. You know what this game reminds me of? I don't know if any of you have played this, but a game called One Finger Death Punch on Steam. Called such because it is designed in a way where you can play it with one finger. The only controls are right mouse button and left mouse button. I, of course, prefer two fingers because it's easier. But, yeah, the controls are punch left and punch right. You don't even move, so this game is already more complicated. And yet, despite the fact that there are only two buttons in the entire game, they cram a ridiculous amount of depth into the game. Like, you've never seen two buttons accomplish so much. You gotta pull off combos on certain enemy types that are otherwise invincible. You gotta decide which direction that you're gonna punch to keep everyone off your tail. Oh no! Scott Roundhouse kicked by Shaquille O'Neal. That dude was massive. Let's go for it again, right? Man. Okay. But yeah. It's a very cheap game, a very simple game. You could probably run it on a Palm Pilot. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's a very not demanding game at all. It's entirely stick figures. It's like they wanted to throw back to that period of time in the early 2000s when beating up stick figures in increasingly violent fashions was the biggest trend on all the Flash game sites. That's another thing I can shout out here. If you like old Flash games and heard the news that Flash is going away, and you're really sad about that, there is a big project by the name of Flashpoint that's going on. You may have heard of it. If you haven't, then, well, be my guest here to hear about it. It is a comprehensive offline library of Flash games. Offline or online. I have the online version because it downloads the games as you try them. If you download everything in one go, it's nearly 400 gigabytes. 400 gigabytes of Flash games and animations. And maybe 10 of them are good. No, being of a family that I'm not gonna say was, you know, like dirt poor, but definitely not affluent, I got a lot of fun from Flash games back in the day. So seeing them preserved in a way that Flashpoint does is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Oh, the stealth snake! It's a wonderful thing. Whether you got your Flash games from Armor Games, Congregate, Newgrounds, it's all there. All your old favorites. Even the less savory ones, if you catch my drift. If it was in Flash or Shockwave, chances are it's on there. And if it's not, do your part and submit stuff, man. They have an active Discord where everybody works together to keep the preservation alive. There we go. Okay, I was really worried I was gonna mess up there for a second. But no, we got the boomerang guy while talking. Not bad. But yeah, anybody can contribute. If you know how to compile a Flash game, you just slap it on the Discord. They'll add it into an update. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Definitely an amazing community and an amazing group effort to keep a dying art form alive. And calling it an art form may sound like, you know, a little bit of an exaggeration. I mean, it was mostly like 15-year-old kids who learned how to code a mouse click, you know. There's not a lot of depth to most of those games or animations, but to me at least, they're still a very, very important part of history, just with how much time I spent with Flash games and Flash animations and all of that back in the day. It was free entertainment, as long as you had internet already, which, I mean, internet, by the time I was a adolescent, was pretty much utility at that point. I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh yeah, like I remember visiting old BBS's when you had to plug your phone into a suction cup. No, I'm not of that generation. I'm a slightly later stage millennial. just late stage enough to remember that Flash games were the greatest. Okay. Look at that! It's like he just one-shots you. So, yeah, you probably gotta actually think when fighting him, which is not gonna be my strong suit. We're exactly halfway in, so I'm gonna check out one-player game B and see what the difference is. Is it just a rearranged floor, different obstacles? Wouldn't be surprised. But either way, it'll be a little bit something different to see, maybe. You know, it's amazing too when you look at Flash games and you see the influence that they've had on indie gaming to this day. I mean, look at stuff like Super Meat Boy. Meat Boy was a Flash game before it was a retail game. Not seeing a huge difference here, but I'll let it go. We'll see what happens. Same thing with Alien Hominid. Alien Hominid was eventually a major retail release for the GameCube, and I believe the PS2 as well. Originally, it was a Flash game. Binding of Isaac. The demo of that was just... I mean, the game is still based off of Flash. That is the game engine for the original Binding of Isaac. That's why people call it Isaac Flash. What was that? I think Game Type B is literally just a harder version of Game Type A, because I'm taking way more damage from these things. Yep, that is literally all Game Type B is. So we probably don't want to spend too much time here, because it's just the same thing but harder, and I was already struggling with the not hard version. Really wish you could kick the snakes. Kicking the snakes would be a good thing at this point. But now we know. Now we know that's all it is. I have no idea how 2-player works on this. I have to imagine it would be a hot seat experience, as the vast majority of the early NES releases were. It's kind of a shame about Game Mode D. I was hoping for something a little more unique. Something that could carry itself on its own a little bit. Instead it's just, here's the same thing, but you take more damage. Which is the same thing as any modern kind of difficulty setting, but at least we know that they're difficulty settings. You know, I'm pretty sure that the VCam just doesn't like my shirt. This is a color shirt. I only have like one shirt of this color, so I haven't like noticed how it interacts with this yet, but I'm pretty sure that it just does not know how to differentiate this from any of the junk in the back. That's probably why I'm phasing out so badly this episode. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like when you have guys on Twitch with green screens and they kind of inadvertently wear a shirt with like a bright green spot on it and it's just a hole in their chest. Oh, come on now. You really just have to be careful this whole section. Rushing this section, nothing good comes from that. The bomb has not yet spawned. Oh, okay. As I said, the bomb has not spawned. The bomb then spawned. Ah, I hate it when you're just trying to jump up and punch it, but you R2 jump into it. Okay, we're in this section. That doesn't mean we're in the clear. We can still get bodied by Mr. Boomerang. Oh, okay. We're fine. We're good. Get off my back. We are escaping level 2 more frequently, but usually still by the skin of our teeth. It's still not a sure thing. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the influence on indie gaming that Flash games have had. Look at what's popular in indie gaming. Lots of pixel graphic retro style platformers. There were tons of those in the Flash world. Lots of tower defense. Tower defense was absolutely massive in the Flash game world. There's a ton of idle and clicker games, stuff like Clicker Heroes and Adventure Capitalist. Those things got started as Flash games as well. I don't know if necessarily Flash. I think some of them may have been Unity or Shockwave, but same concept. When I say Flash game, you know, I mean that entire family. Good God. Get off of me, everybody. What? What was that? Yep, and then we just... So you probably... Do you gotta walk backwards or jump out of the way of that kick? Because that is a absolutely killer kick. You gotta get rid of the minis, too. Now that I've finally seen one flip up in the air, that seems like it could ruin you. Let's hope I can get to the point where I, stash up 50,000 points at one point. Get one extra attempt at this floor. That's a good way to do it, you know. Get off of me! Oh gosh. We just ruined it all. Ducked when I should have jumped. It's possible, but there's no guarantee. Getting 2,000 points right here before I die. See, that's confidence there. Before I die. It's alright, you know, may as well acknowledge the truths of the world. Okay, we did. We did get an extra life for whatever it's worth. We still gotta actually make it to old Shaquille before we can, really be happy with it. I think there are 3 knife throw. Not guaranteed. Yeah, look at that! We got him in a punching loop and we were able to get past him that way. You know, whatever works. Quit bouncing off my head there, little mini. That's a new high score, for sure. A big old pogged high score. I'm distracted by my own phasing out here. It's kind of funny. You know, it's a quirk. One day there will be a better solution. Okay. At least these can be punched. Oh yeah, compared to the snakes, these are nothing. You can kind of just ignore them a lot too. Well, you know, to a degree. That's a way easier first half than the snake half, though. You wanna run that by me? Ah! What? That dude didn't care at all about anything. It's like, I'm not even gonna take damage from you, man. I can't be bothered. I mean, props to you, I guess, for just completely being in control of your life, but could you not? Could you maybe, you know, just, take a little bit from me? Give me an inch here? Let's see, do we gotta jump over him? Oh, we gotta punch off his head! Ow! And then he keeps dodging backwards more. Okay, well, it's definitely the furthest that we've gotten. Obviously, that's 4 out of 5 stages. Are there only 5 stages in this game? Man! If I can actually beat this game in an hour, I'll be mildly impressed with myself. Now I'm just so focused in on the game that I'm like, I got no words for you, man. I just want to go further. I looked at the height of the tower, saw how far I got, and then I asked, can you take me higher? And then Modern Rock Radio said, yes. Yes, we can. I want to just take this moment while I mentioned radio to say that anybody who listens to rock radio and then condemns pop radio for playing all the same stuff needs to just shut up right now. Pop music plays the same thing in spurts. It plays what's popular, and then it moves on to the next thing that's popular. Rock radio? Holy shit. It's the same damn Skid Row song and the same Stone Sour song all day long. That was terrible there. Rock radio, as far as I'm concerned, is infinitely more repetitive than pop radio, and I've been subject to both of them. I'm not just making a sweeping generalization from missing data. I've been around too much of both. Oh, get out of here, get out of here. Thank you. You avoided certain death. Same thing with variety radio. I don't know if any of you are at all familiar with Jack FM. I don't think that's just a local thing. I'm pretty sure that Jack FM is that was truly horrendous. I'm pretty sure Jack FM is a pretty horrible kind of around the whole country thing. The whole thing that they say is, we play what we want. What that means is, we play the same one-hit wonders from the 90s and nothing else. And the occasional classic rock song. If you've got a variety radio station, and I ever hear the same song more than like once a week, you've already failed. There is so much music, and if you pride your entire format on... That's bad. If you base your entire format on providing a variety of sounds, then you should have a true variety, is what I'm saying. This shouldn't all just be one-hit wonders and nothing else, because if you've ever heard Jack FM, that's exactly what it is. It's like, I've never heard Groove is in the Heart so many times in my life than when I worked at a job that played Jack FM. Not to say that Groove in the Heart is, you know, a terrible song, but there's a reason that D-Light are a one-hit wonder. Same thing with, like, My Own Worst Enemy by Lit, that was on there. It's a really fun song, and I don't mind hearing it every now and then, but why would that be the standard of your variety station? Do something daring, you know? But that's why we have college radio, and to a degree, some public radio as well. I know most public radio stations that I hear tend to be a little more daring sometimes. And sometimes it's the same thing, but they've just selected something slightly different to play. It's like, here you go, public radio. Here's the newest song by Tame Impala for the third time this hour. It's like, oh, congratulations. You're doing the same thing, but with a very, very, very marginally lesser known artist. And I use the word marginally very specifically there. Floor 1 is not a problem for me anymore. It's, you know, it's pretty much a formality at this point, which is good. It's kind of the point of the game is to improve at it. Come on. Okay. I was able to escape the... Ah, no! I punched it instead of jumped over it. I was gonna say, we're getting more consistent at floor 2, but I'm probably gonna eat my words. I gotta remember. Up is jump. That's been the most jarring thing for me in this game, is remembering you only have one attack button, even though you may just use kick the entire time because you've got nothing... Every time with that jar. Because you've got nothing more clever to do, you know? That doesn't mean that the other button is magically jump now. Well, gee dang it. I don't know if we'll top that 79,000 score here in the 17 minutes that we got left, but who am I to not try, you know? What am I going to do, stare at the title screen for 17 minutes? That's not content! That won't get you anything. But yeah, radio sucks in general. There's a public radio station where I live that I haven't listened to it in a long time because ever since I got Bluetooth in my car, my radio has been irrelevant, except as a Bluetooth vessel. But there was a public radio station that I would occasionally listen to that had a couple good features on it every now and then. They had a program called the Coffee Break, which was an hour-long block in the morning where they'd pick a theme and then they'd play songs based on that theme. And that was always kind of fun just to see, okay, what are they going to fit in as the theme? And they generally played stuff that they wouldn't normally play during that time. They wouldn't just squeeze in the same My Morning Jacket song that they've been playing for the past 10 years. And again, don't have a problem with My Morning Jacket either. They're dare I say, an underrated band. Maybe at one point they weren't underrated. Maybe at one point they were the exact kind of overplayed stuff that a lot of other bands are. But, you know, I wasn't really listening to the radio very much in My Morning Jacket's in their heyday, their peak. Quite frankly, I seldom hear them brought up at all anymore. Which, you could say it's sad, but I mean, that's just the natural flow of time. Bands gain popularity, bands lose popularity. That snake coming from stage left there just to mess me up. And I've, over the years, become disenfranchised to the point where, when I was in high school, I was like, oh, if it's indie rock, then that means it's good. It's not mainstream. It's all super cool and innovative. And, you know, as the years go on and you hear your 57th Kasabian ripoff, you're saying, no, it's the same. Some of them are good. Most of them are just whatever. Despite all that and that rather cynical nature, I do choose to believe that most music is at least decent. I seldom listen to an album and think that was a huge waste of my time. It happens, of course. Boy, does it ever. And sometimes those even wind up being more memorable than the decent albums that I listen to. Because the decent albums, like, what are you going to say about them? It was okay. I wasn't upset by it. At least with an album that you listen to and you just, like, cannot stand, it kind of sticks with you because you're like, oh gosh, remember that album and how bad it was? Okay, the trick is to get him to punch. There we go. You get him to punch and then you just go in for the kill. Yeah, get those guys. Well, we're at it. No. I typically tend to go through phases in my musical appreciation. Sometimes I'll listen to nothing but, like, original raw death metal for a long, long time. Other times I will just be on a shoegaze kick. And sometimes I'll go a while without listening to any music whatsoever, you know? As with all things in life, it ebbs and it flows. Okay, we're in the clear. We're past Bugland. I've got an idea of how we gotta handle this guy here. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't how I intended for that to go. To make that perfectly clear. Get out of here, bug. And before someone comes in and is all like, well, technically that's not a bug. It's a blah 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 blah. If you took a single bug course, I don't even know. What is the study of bugs? I knew at one point. I always want to say that's etymology, but that's the study of words. What a douchebag. Can you believe that, dude? Is it entomology? Why do I even care? Why am I so fixated on this? It's because I want to know what the word is. Come on. Words are important, man. Usually. The rough part is when you get to the dude and then enemies spawn right as you've gotten to him. Oh, come on now. What do you do? What do you do? What are you gonna do when that dude pukes snakes all up on you? That had to have been what he was doing. He was absolutely puking snakes. I don't think we're gonna see floor 5 in this video, to be honest. The hunchback of Notra floor 4 is just gonna wreck you. Okay, I see now why you would use a punch. It gets you more points. So if you're really going for those juicy points, you punch everything. Took me long enough to draw that conclusion. Better late than never, though. That reminds me of a terrible, terrible pun. A joke that is far too long and terrible to even be worth bringing up. a slight spoiler, the punchline is simply a spoonerism of late than never. It's terrible. You're all gonna be wondering if I'm gonna tell you the joke now, and no, I'm not. I'm not even gonna. You just get to hang there with that in the back of your mind, wondering for the rest of your mortal life what I could have possibly been talking about. And if there's ever a point in your life where you discover what that joke is, you'll say, wow, I'm glad I wasn't told that back when it was a very real possibility, a real risk of having had to hear that joke. Did you see that? Collided with the pot, landed on the snake for a dank juggle on me. I just got juggled by NES AI, man. How's that for rough? That's rough too. It's still tricky. I still hate the snake corridor. Barring the hunchback, this might be the hardest thing in this game, for me at least. I'm not dealing with it properly, you know? Now I gotta deal with the boomerang guy. Wow, there's an enemy spawned! No! Oh, it's a tragedy. It's a genuine tragedy. Not to downplay all of the real tragedies out there, but none of those were quite as bad as dying to the boomerang man at the end of floor 2 of Kung Fu. Yeah, we'll punch that. Had those guys not spawned, simply walking through that dragon probably would have been the right call. But I did not call a variable when I needed to, and I ended up completely eating it. Which, is that unexpected at this point? Come on. Now I can just stare at the screen silently for 8 more minutes. No, I'm not gonna do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you. Anybody pick up any new games recently? Anything that you have been enjoying? I would love to foster discussion in my comment group, because if there's one thing people always say, it's that YouTube comments are one of the worst comment sections on the internet, and I don't believe that to be true. It's too broad of a generalization. I'd say that it depends completely on the video that you're watching and completely on the community that surrounds said video. If all you do is watch clickbait ASMR videos all day, you're probably gonna get low-hanging fruit in the comment sections. But no, I'd like to foster something a little bit more meaningful, you know? It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily drop your latest philosophy in the comments all the time. No, not at all. Just, you know, something that people can jive to, something that people can read and they'll say, hey, that's something to think about. I know, how very boomer of me, trying to get people to interact in some way. Risky move. Hey. Look at that. That was maybe the best floor 2 that we've had. Actually, I know that was the best floor 2 that we've had. Barely took a scratch. We got, like, ran up the back by one of the regular ninja. Are they ninjas? Are they trainees? What are they doing? Well, they can't be trainees because obviously we have to stop Mr. X, which clearly means there is foul play afoot. Sylvia! Sylvia, get your head out of the oven. I don't know what the words are. I don't expect anybody else to know what the words are either. I say that, but it's not like I exactly reference the most obscure song on planet Earth. There's that twilight zone of things that are obscure, but not obscure enough to actually be considered as such. Like, it's like that whole, like, a tip of the iceberg thing. They're at the tip of the iceberg in obscurity. Obscurity. There are a lot of, like, video games that fit in that reach. Oh, look at that. Just decimated him with a million furious punches. There are video games that land in that realm of being, like, not super well-known, but well-known enough among enthusiasts. But music is definitely where I most commonly associate that general vibe. There's a lot of bands that I know, and I don't consider them to be particularly unknown. And they're not unknown. And they have pretty big followings. But if introduced to the general public, they might not necessarily know what you're talking about. I'm talking your stuff like Quiero Quiero Bonito. Absolutely love them. One of my favorite bands in recent history. And they're not obscure. They have a definite that was bad. They have a definite following. But if you walk up to someone on the street and ask them what their favorite Quiero Quiero Bonito song is, it might be a little difficult to get an authentic answer. I was particularly bad about snobbery when I was in high school, though. I've had more than enough public encounters with people that I look back on and I think, what the heck were you doing, high school me? Could you have been any more unlikable? Oh no, I tried to duck! Oh, but if I ducked, then he probably would have got... Because I think when he did that movement, I think he was throwing his puke snake on the floor. This is a new high score, by the way. I said it wouldn't happen. As it turns out, I was a liar. We can't be taking damage on the bugs. Yeah, there we go. Squeeze points out of the bugs. We're going purely for points, as you can tell by my fists of fury. No! Like, you can't get near him, and then he doesn't give you enough time to react. What is going on here? Oh, we actually still have another life. I didn't even realize that. I thought I was, all lucked out. Please. Bugs, please. This one you can just walk under, and you just turn around and... Oh. And then it leaves you alone. It's decided that it's done. I like how sometimes the numbers mash into themselves and make it look like I've done way better than I actually did. Oh, I had to duck. No! Then I couldn't duck. It's so... I don't know. Given enough time, you know, that could eventually be figured out. We don't have a lot of time left. Let's see if we get ravaged in Type B for, like, 2 minutes. It's the same scoring. You still get 200 for a punch and 100 for a kick. It's hypnotic almost. Again, it is fun. It is well made. Yeah, we definitely got destroyed. But it's a very functional game. For the time, especially. Like, yeah, you know, it's not... If it were a platformer, it would probably be way worse. And I think that that's why it works, is because there is no platforming, really. There's just dodging up and down, and that's the extent of your movement. Which really allows it to thrive in the early days of a system that's still trying to figure out what it wants to be. So, by all means, porting Kung Fu over like this, or whatever it was called before it was called Kung Fu, absolutely brilliant move. It's a game that, if you got this during the NES's launch, I think you would have had a lot of fun with it. I mean, you can still have a lot of fun with it today, but even more given the context of the times, you know, when you didn't have games like The Witcher or Deus Ex to go through that will just, you know, immerse you completely. For what it was at the time, this was a very, very good inclusion. And while it is hard, outside of not knowing what to do with the hunchback dude, it doesn't feel unfair. Like, every time I mess up, I feel like, hey, I messed up because of my own inability. And that is the best kind of difficulty. games where you feel consistently in control and like anything that bad happens is purely your own fault, those are the best types of games. Which, you know, again, is probably why Super Mario Brothers has been such a regaled classic for all of eternity. Okay, we can escape this. We can escape this. Yes! That is exactly the 1 hour mark. So, actually, we're just gonna stop right there. We're not gonna drag this on just because we're doing well. Although, you know, getting to floor 3 on game type B, not bad. But yeah, those are my thoughts. In terms of the games in the original launch, I'd say Kung Fu definitely ranks in the upper half of those games for sure. Possibly even a top 3 one. We don't have a lot left, and quite frankly, the list is looking rather uninspired past this point here. Speaking of which, tomorrow we get Mach Rider, the first racing game. Kind of. I say kind of, and you'll see why I'm saying kind of. It's another one of those games that the average person is probably only familiar with because of the Super Smash Bros. Melee trophy that the game had, because it has not been mentioned a whole lot at all outside of its initial release. But we'll get to talk more about Mach Rider tomorrow. We'll get to talk plenty about it. Until then, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll join me next time. Tell your dermatologist, and we'll see you then.